Okay, once we have all of our corridors in there, our next step is going to be to create these radius returns, horizontal, and give it a profile for the ramp 4 and for the ramp 2, for the south and the north. To do that, we're going to go to Project Wise, and we're going to double click on Civil Geometry, because that's where we want to place our radius returns. So we're going to open that up and check in our corridors file. And once that is checked in, the first thing that we need to do is to reference in the corridors, because we need the edge of pavement for ramp 4 and ramp 2 and for Bighorn to be able to select to create our radius returns. So we're going to go to the reference dialog, Tools Attach, and we're going to bring in the corridors file. And that should look just like this, but now we have actual line work that we can use to create our arcs for our radius returns. So the first thing that we need to do after we get the reference in there is to go up and set our feature definition. So we want it to be edge of pavement new, so we're going to expand out design, design standards, roadway, and we're going to scroll down to edge of pavement new. And we're also going to make that active with the light bulb and painter's palette just to the left of that, so that anything we create now will take on that feature definition. So over on the left hand side there, we're going to go down to the horizontal geometry tools, and we're going to pick the simple arc tool. Simple arc tool is almost like a fillet tool for Microstation, but it is a civil object. So we're going to left click on it. In the dialog box that pops up, we're going to have our trim and extend set to none, because we don't want to trim or extend something that's in a reference file. And we're going to set our radius here at 75. So we're just going to make sure we do that. We're going to do ramp 2 first. So it's the south side, or ramp 2. So I'm going to call it ramp 2 underscore south. That lets me know where I'm creating this at. Moving out on the screen, it says locate the first element that we want to create it off of, and we want that edge of pavement for ramp 2. So what we're going to do is we're going to hover over it, and the thing that's going to highlight most often is going to be that baseline for ramp 2, and we want the edge of pavement. So we're going to move over the top of that and right click. Once we right click, it's going to pick the edge of pavement. Once it does that, then we can left click on that edge of pavement, and then we're going to left click on the edge of pavement for Bighorn. Then it's going to say what quadrant do you want to put that 75-foot radius in. So we're just going to move on to the inside here and to the left hand side. We're going to left click in a blank area. Our trim and extend option is set at none because we set that earlier. So we'll left click to accept that, and then we'll go ahead and draw in our radius return on that side. For the other side, we're going to do it the opposite direction, because the template that we have, that ramps template that we created ramp 4 off of, we want to use that for both of these. So as long as they're running in opposite directions, we can use that same template without having to create another one. Okay, so the way that we're going to do that is we're going to kind of basically do the same thing. We're going to have a none for our trim and extend, 75 for our radius. We're just going to come down here and call it ramp 4 underscore north. Enter that in. Like I said, we're going to do opposite directions here, so we're going to pick the edge of pavement for Bighorn first. Then it's going to try to highlight ramp 4 center line, or baseline. So what we're going to do is right click over the top of that edge of pavement for ramp 4 until it highlights. Once it highlights, we will left click on it then, and we'll move into the quadrant where we want our radius return. So we'll move up to the top, and we'll left click in a blank area to accept that 75. And then it wants to trim and extend again. We're not going to do any, so make sure it says none there, and we'll left click to place that. Okay, so what that does is it gets our horizontal radius returns for ramp 2 and ramp 4. The next thing we want to do is apply a vertical profile to those radius returns, and there's a tool that does that for us automatically now in SS4. It's called the Quick Profile Transition tool, and according to the EPG, we are supposed to be doing parabolic type of profiles for that. So those options are available in the Quick Profile Transition tool. So what we're going to do is we hit F4. It gets us out of any tool. We'll go over here to the left hand side under tasks, and we're going to go to the vertical geometry. In vertical geometry, the last row, the first tool is your quick profile transition. I'm going to show you just really quick what's happening here. We're going to do this south one first, so I'm going to left click on it, open the profile window for that. I'm going to go down to window 8 or view 8, open that up, and just left click in here so I can see the profile for that. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I don't see anything in here at all. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to make the existing ground out here active. So I'm going to come back out into window 1 here, and I'm going to left click on my magenta terrain model, and I'm going to set it active. As soon as I do that, when I go back to the view 8 profile window, I can make it active and fit the view, and now I've got the existing ground in there, as you can see. Okay. Now for this quick profile transition tool, what it does is it uses this simple arc, and we selected the edge of pavement for ramp 2 and the edge of pavement for Bighorn, and those both have profiles assigned to them. If the items that you selected to create this arc don't have any profiles, then this tool will not work. It has to have profiles coming in and coming out of whatever item that you select. Okay. So what I want to do is I'm going to show you another tool right here, this project extended profile. I'm going to show you what this tool is doing. When I pick on that tool, first thing it asks, select element to project onto. So that's going to be this radius return that I have here. If I left click on it, it's allowing me to go backwards or forwards on this. So I'm going to go backwards, back to the beginning here, and I'm going to left click at a location back on ramp 2. As you'll see in the profile window, that is showing or displaying the ramp 2 profile along that baseline or along that edge of pavement. As I move forward, it's giving me the same thing for the ahead or Bighorn edge of pavement. So I'll left click out here, and it's going to draw in that edge of pavement profile. So the quick profile transition tool, when I go to that one now, if I go to tasks, and you guys can do this as well here, and go down to the quick profile transition tool. When you pick that tool, grab it again there, the first thing it asks you for is what kind that you want. Parabolic, or the other option here is linear. Linear, if you choose that one, it's going to draw a straight profile from one end to the other, straight across, 2 points. If you do parabolic, it's going to try to fit in an arc in that location, kind of a parabolic arc. Okay, and parabolic, according to EPG, is what we need to use there. You can also name this profile here if you want to. So we're just going to do that real quick. I'll just put in South PR. Okay, this is going to be my South radius return profile. We'll move out here on the screen again, and it says, what do you want to use? I want to use parabolic, so we'll just go into a blank area and left click. Now here's a really good prompt. Locate what to define. If you have no idea what that means, that's why you're taking this class, I suppose. But locate what to define would be your radius return. So we're going to go ahead and left click on that. As soon as you left click on that, it's going to give you a parabolic profile for that. So I'm going to hit F4 on that, and we'll take a look at it. When we go back into the profile window here, we'll left click in here. As you can see now, it's got an active, it makes it active automatically, and it calls it South PR like we did. It's got a type of a transition between. So that's what it's doing. It has to have profile on both those lines that come into it in order for it to create it. So if you ever use the tool and you don't get anything out of it, there's either a gap before or after the profile, and it doesn't know how to solve it. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing for ramp 4, the north side. So I'm going to open the profile window for that and take a look at it. Also in view 8 here, so I'll just left click in here. And if we use that same tool, the quick profile transition tool, the last row of the first tool, and we're going to go ahead and do parabolic again. So I'll left click to accept that. Out here I'm going to go ahead and name this one North PR and enter that in. It says what do you want to define, so we're going to go out again and pick that north for ramp 4, that radius return. So we'll left click on it. As you can see, it appears over here. We'll hit F4, move into that profile window, and if you let your mouse rest on it, there's a north PR, and it's also active. If you're not quite convinced that it's working correctly, you can come back in here to this Tasks, Vertical Geometry, and get that Project Extended Profile tool again, and you can pick on the arc and then go back direction, left click, and head direction, left click, and you can see that it's tied those in together. Now it went beyond, so it goes vertical because it doesn't know what to do after I get past that. But that's what it's doing, where it comes into the profile. So we can F4 that, and now we have our civil geometry for our radius returns put in there. Okay. So once we do that, we are ready to move on to the next step, which is creating the intersection corridors.